All right, get ready, because today we're taking a deep dive into a number that's got some serious mystique around it. Life path number 33.
Oh yeah,
We're
33.
talking numerology here, folks. We've got a
Mhm.
whole stack of articles and research we're going to be diving into, trying to figure out what makes this number tick. Like, what does it even mean to be a 33?
Right.
What are their strengths, their challenges, and are there, like, any telltale signs that someone might be a 33? We're going to try to answer all that and more today.
Definitely. And I think one of the most intriguing things about 33 is that it's often compared to some pretty heavy-hitting figures like,
Yeah.
wait for it, the Dalai Lama.
Okay, the Dalai Lama, that's a pretty high bar.
Right.
What is it about 33 that puts it in that same league? Is this like numerology's version of enlightenment or something?
Well, our sources say it's less about being enlightened and more about having a supercharged life purpose. See, 33 is what's called a master number, along with 11 and 22.
Master number. Okay, I got to be honest, that sounds a little intimidating. Like, are we talking about a mystical ranking system here?
It's not about being better than anyone else. Think of it more like master numbers are tuned into a different frequency. They're here to serve humanity on a larger scale.
So if you're someone who feels a strong pull towards helping others, like making the world a better place, could that be a sign you're a 33?
It could be a piece of the puzzle, but our sources say one of the hallmarks of a 33 is their deep, almost overwhelming empathy.
Okay, so we're not just talking about your average do-gooder here.
Right. It's like they feel other people's emotions as deeply as their own. One source even said it's like carrying the weight of the world's pain on their shoulders.
Wow, that's intense.
Yay.
I mean, how do you even function with that kind of sensitivity? Do you just burn out?
That's definitely a risk. Our sources emphasize that self-care is huge EE for 33s.
Yeah.
They can't pour from an empty cup, right? Speaking of which, let's talk about careers.
Yeah, because if you're carrying that much empathy, wouldn't you be drawn to a career where you can actually, like, make a difference?
Absolutely. Think
Yeah.
counseling, teaching, maybe even social work, activism, anything where they can channel that compassion into tangible action.
So are we talking about a whole generation of 33 therapists and social workers then?
Maybe. But here's the interesting thing. Our sources say 33s often have a really strong creative streak, too.
Oh, that's right. It's not all just serious, heavy stuff with them.
Right.
So how does that creativity play out? Are we talking like painting and music?
It can be, but it goes beyond that. One source described it as having a unique ability to find creative solutions to problems, thinking outside the box.
So it's like this interesting mix of heart and mind, compassion and creativity. Do our sources give any like real world examples of how that might look?
Actually, yeah. One source told a story about a 33 who completely transformed disaster relief efforts by using their artistic talents to design temporary shelters that were both functional and uplifting for displaced families.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right.
See, that's what I'm talking about. But hold on, not every 33 is out there building shelters, are they? I mean, it sounds exhausting.
You're not wrong. And actually, one source said that many 33s don't really step into their full potential until later in life.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
It's like they need time to learn how to balance their idealism with a healthy dose of realism. It's a process.
So it's not just about having this big heart and these incredible intentions. It's about learning how to navigate the world with all that intensity.
Exactly. And speaking of navigating, let's move on to how this intense energy might show up in their relationships.
Oh, okay. Love and relationships for the 33. This should be good.
Oh, get ready for some fireworks. Our sources say when a 33 loves, they love hard. Like they're all in, giving their partner their heart and soul.
Wow, that sounds kind of dreamy, honestly. But are we talking about a healthy kind of love, or is it more like they lose themselves in the relationship?
That's the thing about 33s. They need to be careful not to overextend themselves. One source even called it the nurturer's dilemma. They naturally want to take care of everyone, but they got to make sure their own needs are being met too, you know?
Totally. Boundaries, people, even in love. But okay, so say you're a sum of three, hopelessly devoted, but maybe struggling to set those boundaries. Do our sources offer any advice on like compatibility? Are there certain life path numbers that just vibe better with a 33?
Funny you should ask, because yes, numerology does have some thoughts on that.
Okay, hit me with it. Which numbers should a 33 be looking out for?
Well, keep in mind this isn't an exact science, right?
Sure.
But it can give us some fun insight. So our sources say 33s tend to have an easier time with life paths 3, 6, and 9.
Ooh, any particular reason why those numbers?
Well, think about the 33 energy. Compassionate, creative, driven to make a difference. Those other life paths kind of resonate with those same vibes, each in their own way.
So it's like they're speaking the same language, even if they have different accents.
Exactly. But on the flip side, there are a couple life paths that might be a bit more, shall we say, challenging for a 33 to navigate.
Ooh, the plot thickens. Lay it on me. Which numbers should a 33 be wary of?
Our sources point to life path 1 and 5 as potentially requiring a bit more work.
Okay, Life Path 1. Remind me, what are they like again?
The go-getters, the leaders, the ones who forge their own path, very independent.
Right, right. So how does that clash with the 33?
Well, imagine this. A life path 1 is off on their own mission, super focused on their goals, and the 33 is trying to build a bridge to meet them halfway, maybe even merge paths entirely.
Oof, yeah. That could create some friction if they're not careful.
Exactly. And then there's life path 5,
Which are?
the free spirits, always on the move, craving adventure and new experiences.
Ah, I see it now. That's a pretty different energy from the 33's need for stability and emotional depth.
Right, like the initial attraction might be there, but building something lasting could be tricky. But no matter what your life path number is, relationships take work, right?
Ain't that the truth? Speaking of work, our deep dive so far has really shed some light on the 33 personality, but there's still this whole master number thing that feels kind of mysterious. Do any of our sources go beyond the basics there?
They do, and this is where it gets pretty interesting, pretty deep even. Like one source connected 33 to this whole concept of Christ consciousness.
Whoa, okay, we're going deep now. Break that down for me. What does that even mean?
Well, in a nutshell, it's about embodying unconditional love and compassion on a huge EE scale.
Yeah.
Like recognizing that we're all connected and working towards the greater good, even if it means making personal sacrifices.
That's a lot to live up to for any number.
Right. But our sources clarify that not every 33 is out there performing miracles. It's more about the potential they have, the capacity to inspire and uplift others.
So it's like they were born with this internal compass pointing towards make a difference, but the exact path they take is totally up to them.
Exactly. And that path isn't always smooth sailing. Our sources talk about some specific challenges that a lot of 33s face, like almost like tests of their commitment to their purpose.
Okay, now this is what I'm talking about. Let's get into those challenges because knowing the potential pitfalls is just as important as celebrating the strengths, don't you think? So we've explored the upsides of Life Path 33, all that compassion and creativity.
Yeah.
But our sources made it clear it's not always easy being a 33, right? Like there's some real challenges that come with that territory.
Yeah, definitely. And one that kept coming up was this whole thing about finding that balance between wanting to nurture the people they love and like accidentally enabling them. Remember we talked about the nurturer's dilemma
Oh,
earlier?
right. The whole boundaries thing.
Yeah.
But how does that actually play out as a challenge for 33s?
Well, our sources say 33s have this really deep-seated urge to help, to heal, sometimes even to like fix things for the people they care about,
Okay.
which, comes from a good place, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
But it can totally backfire if they're not careful.
Because at a certain point, it's like, are you actually helping or are you kind of preventing them from learning their own lesson?
Exactly. One source even told this story about a 33 who kept bailing their friend out of debt, like over and over again.
No.
And they finally realized that their friend had become like totally reliant on those bailouts. They had zero motivation to manage their own money better.
It's so tough because you want to be there for your friends, but you also don't want to enable bad habits, you know?
Totally. And it gets at this bigger theme for 33s, which is that sometimes their desire to help can actually end up overshadowing what other people need. It's about finding that sweet spot between offering support and taking a step back so the other person can, like, stand on their own 2 feet.
Right. It's like that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day.
Yeah.
Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And it kind of leads us to another challenge our sources talked about, burnout, which, I mean, we've touched on it throughout this whole deep dive.
It makes sense though, right? All that empathy, feeling everyone else's stuff so deeply, it's got to be draining.
For sure. And our sources were pretty clear that 33s really need to prioritize self-care, like putting on their own oxygen mask first,
Oh, absolutely. So what are we talking about here? Like bubble baths and face masks.
Yay, if that's what works. But really, it's about finding practices that help them recharge and stay grounded. Meditation, spending time in nature, doing something creative.
Yeah, like creative outlets. That makes sense.
It's all about replenishing those energy reserves. And a big part of that is self-awareness. They need to be able to spot those burnout warning signs early on.
Like what, feeling totally overwhelmed, emotionally wiped out?
Exactly. And then they can course correct before it turns into a bigger issue.
Because this whole being a 33 thing, it's not a sprint, right? It's like running a marathon. You got to pace yourself.
Exactly. And just like with a marathon, there are going to be those moments where you feel strong and unstoppable, and other moments where you just want to give up. And that's totally normal. But the key is to keep going.
Oh, I like that.
And one last thing our sources emphasized was the importance of self compassion for 33s. Like, it's not just about being compassionate towards others, they got to show themselves that same
It's
kindness.
so true. Because they're not going to get it right all the time. Nobody does.
Exactly. And beating themselves up about it isn't going to help anyone.
Well said. And, even if someone listening doesn't resonate with all the specifics of being a 33, I think there's a really powerful takeaway here for everyone,
Totally.
which is,
That we all have our own unique path to walk with its own set of strengths and challenges. And the key is to approach it all with like a sense of curiosity and a willingness to keep learning and growing.
I love that. So to our amazing listeners out there, whether you're a diehard numerology fan or just dipping your toes into this world for the first time.
Or even if you have no idea what your life path number is.
Yes, exactly. Take a minute to think about, what are those unique gifts that you bring to the table? How can you use them to make a positive impact on the world around you?
Even if it's just a small act of kindness.
Love that. I think that's the perfect note to end on.
I agree.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we will catch you on our next deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone.